All right, joining us this afternoon is one of Australia's most, I think, recognisable sportsmen, an NBL veteran. I think he's played over 300 games over 14 seasons. He's been a boomer for, I think, 6 or 7 years now. Olympic Games, Commonwealth Games, World Cups. Chris Goulding, thanks for giving us some time. We really appreciate the Hale Sport podcast.
No worries. Happy to be here. Happy to have a chat.
Excellent. Now, joining us is our vice captain, Eddie Farquharson, and I'm going to throw over to Eddie to get the ball rolling with a few questions so we learn a little bit about you and your career and give us some boys listening some advice.
Let's do it.
All right. So, Chris, your old man was quite a footballer. So, what sort of was the difference for you? Did you ever play football growing up, or was there a period of time where it wasn't clear, like basketball or footy, or was it always basketball for you?
Yeah, so my old man played a little bit over in Perth for Claremont. So most Perth people kind of know my old man, in a AFL sporting sense. They would know my old man well before they kind of knew who the hell I was. They probably don't even know who the hell I am. But it's always nice when people mention my old man because, I didn't get to see a hell of a lot of his football. I was really young. So I would have loved to been able to have those vivid memories of going along and watching him play football. That would have been really cool. So I appreciate you mentioning him. But I played a little bit when I was younger, maybe when I was 11, 12, 13, 14. So yeah, there was always that balance of both. The thing that got me was basketball was just year round. Basketball was just always happening. Whereas footy, I had to wait 6 months for it to start back up again. And as a hyperactive kid, just wanting to play and do something all the time, basketball was kind of like that constant where I could always jump on and play that. And to be honest, I don't know if I was that good at footy either. So I wasn't great at basketball early on, but I think I made the right choice. I don't reckon I would have got very far.
It sounds a lot like me, actually. Okay, so fair to say, some of your best basketball has been with Melbourne, and you've been very successful in your time, including winning the title in 2018, where you were named MVP. So, what were some of your best memories from that season? Yeah,
so that season was so cool. It's so memorable to me. We just got a new coach in Dean Vickerman, who's a magnificent coach. And I remember we kind of had this meeting early on, me and him, where we were kind of feeling each other out. And I don't know whether he was sure about me, but, I come out of the meeting and I was just I have a lot of respect for this coach. The best thing I can do going forward was, I was in a contract year as well. So I was out of contract at the end of the year. So I wanted to have a really good year, and it started in preseason. I was just I just need to get myself in absolutely phenomenal shape to make sure that I'm ready to roll at the start of this season, because the guys we brought in, the people we signed, I knew we had a chance to be really good, and Dean doesn't really coach teams unless we got a chance to win. That's why he's so good as a coach. Every team he coaches, they somehow manage to be in the conversation at the end of the year. So a great culmination of guys that we certainly had our troubles feeling each other out and who was going to take a back seat and when, and always happens when you get a group of really talented guys in together. So we had those struggles early on, and then we kind of hit a patch where we hit some adversity. Some guys had some injuries. Some guys had to step up towards the back end of the year. And we just got on this roll where we were just defending so well. Every practice we had, we would come into practice and they were so much harder than the games. Guys were going at each other. They were competitive. They were physical in the right way. They boil over every now and then, but we call it at Melbourne United, you have to have a championship level practice. You can cruise by at this level and just get through, and you get through the week and then you roll into the game and you might win. But we find when we have championship level practices that we are just so much better come the weekend. And we were consistently having them week on week, month on month. And we got to a stage where we felt like we could beat anyone when we defended the way we could, because offensively we were really talented. So I just remember, a group of guys that just came to work every day, a group of competitors that were really fun to be around and go to training. And and have a lot of fun doing what we loved, which is playing basketball.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so being one of the big names in the NBL, then, you know, scouting advice is always don't let Chris Goulding get hot. So you get traps, double teams thrown at you, team's best defender on you. What is it like dealing with that, and how have you learned to sort of come over that, like, playing?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I mean, it's frustrating because oftentimes young athletes, whether it be your age or even up to, you know, the young early 20s, mid 20s, so much of it is about establishing themselves and how they want to succeed personally. And the biggest thing that I've realized, and it's such a cliche, that, you know, team success can dictate so much of your personal success. So it's something that I've realized, that when you're getting trapped, you know, other teams' game plan is to not let you get going. It's a compliment first and foremost, but it also allows you to show other parts of your game. Can you distribute the ball? Can you stand in a corner, take defenders away so that, you know, the other side of the court, some talented players are exploiting it over there? And it's something I probably wouldn't have known earlier in my career, because I would have been like, what the hell, man? I want to shoot threes. But as long as we're ticking along and we're winning and we're playing the right way, you'll find ways to be able to contribute in winning.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So for the Boomers, you've played 2 World Cups and 1 Olympic Games. So we'd like to ask you a few questions about those. So I'll throw over to Mr. Bow for a couple here.
You start the Olympic Games. What was that whole experience like? We've spoken to a few Olympic athletes now. Were you guys allowed to go to the opening ceremony? And then, I suppose, separate to that, who was the biggest star that you saw outside of basketball that you just felt like a bit of a kid again amongst celebrities?
Yeah. So the opening ceremony one was interesting because we played France the very first night of Olympic competition. So you have, say it's a Monday, you have your opening ceremony. We were playing France, game 1, Tuesday night, center court, ready to roll. We had a lot of guys that were that had already been Olympians. Myself, I was a first time with 3 or 4 other first time Olympians. And I'd always been told, no matter what, you have to go to the opening ceremony. And there was a bit of conjecture within the group because the other guys were like, hey, this is more important. You know, we got a game, which I completely agree was more important. So I had to kind of roll the dice as to how many minutes I thought I might play, as to whether I could go to the opening ceremony. So I ended up going. We were really lucky. I don't know whether we did or not, but it almost felt like we got fast tracked. You know, we didn't have to stand. We didn't have to wait. We almost jumped straight on a bus, straight to the opening ceremony stadium. A little bit of waiting, maybe 15, 20 minutes, but just as all the teams line up and you just make your way through that tunnel and walk out to, I think there was 60 or 70,000 people going crazy for the opening ceremony. I'm so glad I did it. And I would recommend everyone that gets the chance to be an Olympian to do it. I didn't do the closing ceremony, so I took the night off for that.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, 2016 is probably the first Olympics where Australian basketball was, I suppose, on the global stage. I think 4 of the guys who Baines, Dellavedova, Bogut probably all won NBA rings by then. What was their leadership like amongst that group as you were sought to get? I think your goal was a gold medal. But what was the leadership that they brought from the NBA to someone that hadn't been in the NBA?
Yeah, so the biggest thing, that's a good question. And I credit these guys that play in the NBA for bringing this mindset that we had. So I would guess in years past, the biggest hurdle would be the fact that you're playing against LeBron, you're playing against Kyrie Irving, Kobe, whoever it was in years past. But for us, we were lucky that we had a group of guys that played them night in, night out. They had been doing it for 5-10 years in the NBA. So these were just their normal opponents. We dissected their weaknesses in their game, the strengths that you don't want them to get to, where we could attack them. So those guys that played them every night, every day, they did a great job of normalizing your DeMar DeRozans, your these guys that we thought we could exploit. And, you know, looking at it now, it's kind of like, hang on, you're telling me you can try and go at and exploit these guys? But for us to have a game plan to try and win, we had to approach it that way. And those leaders were really good in bringing that mindset.
Yeah. So in the tournament itself, you guys got off to a great start, beat France pretty comfortably, Serbia pretty comfortably, lost to Team USA, but that was 10 points, but far tighter than 10 points. And they had Durant, Carmelo, Kyrie, Klay Thompson, Paul George. What are your memories of that game itself? Like, obviously, those NBA veterans helped you get ready for it, but on the court, what was that like?
Yeah, so I was a little bit giddy. I'm not someone that gets kind of like starstruck. None of the basketballers really hit me. To answer your question before, there was a training session where Rafael Nadal was doing a training session in the middle of the Olympic Village on the outdoor courts, which quickly amassed about 1,500 other professional athletes watching him train. Just, you know, he was one of the guys that was special to watch. But the game, you know, like, it was kind of one of those ones where in the back of your mind, you think, oh, are we going to get smacked here? Are we going to win? Are we going to win by 30? It was just such an unknown. And to get into that game and to settle into it and have a lead, and to Paddy to play really well. And we were ticking the right things off as you go through the game. And it was like, hang on, we're going to be a chance here. So when I subbed in, I think the very first play, I came off a flare screen or something and got wide open, and I had a shot which felt good coming off the hands. I would have loved if it went down. It didn't. And then I think on the other end, I got posted up by Kevin Durant maybe, or someone. And I'll tell you, that's not a place you want to be. That's 7'1", long, athletic. I call it Durant Island. It's one of the loneliest places you'll ever be in your life. So there's some cool little.
Did anyone come and help you, or you just?
They just left me. They just left me, man. Where's my teammates now? But, you know, super cool to realize at the end of it that, hey, you know, if we did some things right, we can beat these guys. So that was a massive game for us. Mindset flipping. Hey, we can win a medal. We can win a gold medal if we do some things right.
Yeah. Now, the boys did a bit of research on that box score, and Carmelo dropped 31 and he hit 9 from 15 from 3. You're probably like the rest of us have seen that on television for 15 years. I imagine the first time was pretty cool to see it, but the 9th time we were just like, man, how do we stop this guy?
Yeah, it's tough because, you know, like he plays the 4 internationally. I really believe he's one of the best international players, like international competition, like you'll ever see. He's done it on numerous occasions. Just his skill set, and at that size and athleticism and being able to stretch and play the 3. We had Baines guarding him, who actually didn't do a bad job, but like, you know, that's one of our 5 men trying to guard Carmelo, who's just slicing and dicing at 3. He is honestly one of the best international players I've ever seen play. Yeah, he's special. That's why I couldn't understand when he was kind of out of the league, out of the NBA. I was like, hang on. You know, yeah, okay, some things can be situational. He may have limitations, but this guy is just an absolute superstar. So it's kind of cool to see him back doing what he's doing in the NBA now.
Eddie?
Yeah, okay. So from that game, you smashed Venezuela and beat a good Lithuanian team in the quarterfinals. You didn't necessarily have the best day in the semi-final against Serbia, which put you in a bronze medal playoff versus Spain. So a lot of basketball players who are listening will remember that. And Australia had never won a medal, obviously. So we were winning with 5 seconds to go. There's a, 50-50 block call on Paddy. They knock down the free throws and win by a point. So I remember most of the team like looking upset at the end of the game, didn't give much to the media. What was the change room like after that? What was the sort of atmosphere in the change room?
Yeah, I reckon there would have been a little bit of damage done to the lockers in the change room. There was a little bit of carnage at the start, but then just like a deafening silence, like guys, we'd been away for our families for so long. We worked so hard to try and reach this goal, not for us, but for Australia. We were trying to do something for our sport and for our country that, had never been done. So to fall agonizingly short of that. It was tough. It was a really tough change room to be a part of, and just normalize. Like, you see some of the guys that are just absolute superstars of our game shattered because they wanted to win this for our country. It was tough.
Yeah, and then again, sort of 2019, similar thing in the World Cup. Was it like deja vu, and like was it hard, like a similar sort of feeling, or was it different? Like,
yeah, I think we didn't really have a chance to win this in Rio. We didn't play well in the semi-final, whereas in this World Cup, we played well in the semi-final. We just came up short, and it kind of felt like, hey, we're getting better. You got to learn to win. You can't just rock up and expect to win a medal and win a gold medal. You got to learn to win, and we felt like it was all part of the process, and hopefully it is part of the process going to whenever Tokyo happens, that, hey, like, these times were terrible, but we've learned that this is where we need to be and we can get there for Tokyo. So it's easy to think back on that now and think, hey, look, we need to learn to win and we need to be better in this area. But at the time, it was heartbreaking again. It was tough to back up and then try and play against France. Guys were injured, guys were banged up, and we kind of run out of gas. I wish we didn't, because guys had, some of the guys had an amazing tournament, but we just came up a little bit short again.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I guess on the Boomers some more. So Brett Brown's the new coach for the Olympics now. Has, like, he or any of the other senior players kept in touch with the group? And obviously there's a 12-month delay now. So does that change anything? Yeah.
So when Brett got appointed, he rung round and made sure he touched base with everyone, and just said, look, we'll be watching, we'll be following everything that's going on. It's tough because everyone's in different corners of the world. So it's kind of like, hey, when we're ready to come into camp, let's get after it. It was more just an intro. I've known Brett for a long time, so it was good to reconnect. But, it's such a strange time in the world right now that people are, it's kind of, the Olympics is a bit of a second thought. People are thinking what's happening with their jobs, lives, their families' jobs and lives, that, it's not something that's been right at the forefront, but, we always keep in contact. Boomers always keep in contact with each other, whether it just be a text message here or there. Obviously the guys in the States have the luxury of being able to catch up a lot more often. But yeah, it's one thing I'm really proud to be part of, is that, the Boomers, we always stay in touch and make sure everyone's doing okay, and that will continue through this.
Yeah. Okay. So again, with the sort of team sort of idea, so Hale and myself in particular, I guess on this one, are big believers in, like, a team mentality. Team basketball wins games. So is there one person for you that stands out for their unselfishness and sort of team first mentality? And so who do you think that would be, and, like, what are the reasons for that?
You mean from the Boomers?
Yeah, from the Boomers or from the NBL, like, just who you played with that sort of stood out for you?
Yeah, in the NBL, Mika Vukona was one for me that I was lucky enough to play with when I was younger and before I really appreciated all that sort of stuff, and just some of the things that he could and can still do. They weren't scoring the basketball. It was uncanny the amount of times he would get a game-winning rebound or come up with a game-winning steal or something like that. Things that don't go on the stat sheet, but it's a skill, and to be able to put yourself in that position and be relentless and aggressive to go and get the ball at a time when it was needed, and do all the things that the team needed. So Mika was one for me that always stands out for me. Delly's another one who prepares amazingly well. He'll be the first to admit he's not the most explosive, he's not the most athletic, he's not the most gifted person in the world, but he prepares better than most people I've seen. He'll watch tape, hours and hours and hours on end of tape of oppositions, just to try and pick up something that he think he might be able to exploit in the game the next day, and constantly taking care of his body, and will just literally play until he faints or passes out for the team, for the country. So much respect to Delly for that.
Yeah, I'll pop in there in a second, Ed. Like, the Delhi had that one game with the Cleveland, didn't he, in the finals, where he had to go get put on a drip or something?
Yeah, so that, I mean, yeah, that's not uncommon for him to work himself to be like that.
Yeah. What would be your advice? Like, basketball's a game, and as kids get to Eddie's age, where the 9th, 10th, 11th man on the bench, mightn't see the minutes that the players 1 to 8 do. What would be advice to kids that are 9th, 10th, 11th? They probably assume that you've never been in that role, but I imagine there are teams where you've had that as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was me at the Olympics. That was me for some games of the World Cup. I've been at NBA summer leagues where that's been me, and earlier in my career that was me. Now, am I not a good basketballer because I didn't play many minutes at my first Olympics? No, it's not the case. It's just sometimes teams are built in certain ways that coaches feel are the best way for them to be successful. The best thing I can say is enjoy it. Immerse yourself in any way you can help, whether it be waving a towel, getting a towel to someone, getting a water bottle, being the first off the bench to encourage them in and pick up things that you can help and say, hey, look, he's every time he goes behind his back, he's loose with his left hand. So there might be an opportunity. You have to stay engaged in the game and read and learn. And as if you were playing, you have to use it as an opportunity to get better and stay engaged, because that is a skill as well. And, if I was a wanker and wouldn't shake the towel, and I might not have made the Olympic team. So because I was willing to accept that role and want my teammates to exceed, maybe that's a reason why I'm an Olympian. So you don't want to throw that out the window because you're not happy about not playing.
Yeah. Last question, Ed.
Okay, so on like the summer league thing in the NBA, so you've obviously been a part of that, and in the NBA times NBL games over the last few seasons. Do you still sort of have ambitions for the NBA in any way, or have you just kind of gone, nah, this is the NBL, this is the Boomers, this is where I'm at?
No, of course I have ambitions. I believe I have a skill set that I could translate to that league easily. But the reality of it is there's thousands and thousands and thousands of high-level basketball guys that probably feel the same way. So I'll never, say give up on it. If it was to ever arise, of course I'd jump at it with two hands. But, the NBL is coming along in leaps and bounds. There's some really high-level guys here as well. So I think we're seeing our league get to a really good level. But if that ever came knocking, of course, if I was 50, 60, 70, maybe then I might say, yeah, it'll never happen, but you never know, mate.
Did you get a bit nervous before those, and that thought, if I got 40 tonight, that could change the direction of my career when you play those NBA games?
No, that's just why I wanted to go out and try and drop 40.
Yeah. Now, last question, which is a really strange question. You've probably never been asked this in your professional career, but at Hale, we have meat pie day on Tuesdays. All the boarders, all the staff get meat pie.
Yum.
And some of the things the boarders do with meat pies is pretty weird in terms of eating with a spoon, taking the lid off, and only eating the lid, excavating the whole thing. How does Chris Goulding eat a meat pie?
I'll be honest, I don't eat too many because I try and look after my skin folds and my body fat. Otherwise, I'll get in trouble by the club. But if I was to sit down and eat a 4 and 20 or whatever the pies are, I would tomato sauce along the top in like a zigzaggy pattern all the way along. I'd have it like this and I'd bite in. I'd probably burn my mouth, scream a little bit, and then a little bit more sauce on every little bite. I'm a sauce guy.
Awesome. Now, Chris, thanks for your time, mate. Really appreciate it. Hopefully, we get the NBL up and running on time this year, and good luck for the Olympics next year. And I know there's thousands of kids who will probably listen to this and they're inspired by all you've done so far, and hopefully what will come for Australia and Melbourne as well. Thanks for your time.
Good stuff. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.